Namaste. I would like to welcome everyone to the webinar hosted by NIMSME on the topic E-Governance and its implications to MSMEs. We have invited three experts and one in-house faculty member for today's webinar. So, without any further ado, we invite our first speaker, Mrs. Arpita Khare, Director of E-Governance, Center of Good Governance, Hyderabad. Ms. Khare is a provincial civil servant from Government of MP and has 25 years of experience in conceptualizing and implementing e-governance projects in the Government of India and state governments. She is MBA from IIM Bengaluru. She has Masters in Public Policy from Maxwell School, USA. She is recipient of National Award on E-Governance in 2006 by Government of India. She had majorly contributed in financial management projects of Government of MP, conceptualization of Aadhaar project, conceptualization of financial management system of Government of AP, Vision project of Ministry of Environment, Government of India, RTI project of Department of Personnel and Training, Government of India, etc. Ma'am, you may proceed with your session now.
Yeah, thank you so much. And good afternoon to everybody. So I'll just connect with my presentation. Yeah. So this actually the topic is e-governance and its implications to MSME. So how this e-governance can accelerate growth of MSMEs in the country. So some statistics I would like to present regarding MSME. And what are the e-governance interventions through Ministry of MSME? Because Ministry of MSME has done a lot. And then coming to my organization, that is Center for Good Governance, in what way we have developed certain application which has really boost up the MSMEs in the Telangana state. And one case study which is not directly related with MSME, but I would like to showcase, this is a recent project for us, that how beneficiary can directly get benefited through eGov platforms. Yeah, so some facts about MSME. As you are all aware, there are approximately 6.33 crores enterprises in manufacturing and services industry, and 99.4% are into micro enterprises. 31% of India's GDP is coming from MSME sector, and 45% are exports are through these sector. And the best part is that they have created approximately 12.4 crores of jobs in the country. So, some states with higher number of MSMEs are Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh. And recently in Union Budget 2021, so they have given 7,572 crores allocation, budget allocation to MSME sector. And in the recent, this 20 lakh crore much talked about economic package, declared by the Government of India, 3 lakhs crore, they are given to MSMEs. And recently, just a day old news, 50,000 crore equity infusions are going to be there through funds of fund. It's not going to next page. 1 minute. So, what are the challenges, for the growth of MSMEs? Why? Because this is a 1.3 billions, our population. A lot of, potential entrepreneurs are available in the country. So, what are the major challenges which are actually delaying the growth or, suppressing the growth? Some major ones which are enlisted are basically, they are not getting timely banking finance. A lot of obstacles in establishing and operating the enterprises in whatever places they are. and they have limited knowledge about it. So, like, there are so many such challenges, but I would like to focus on these three today. And because when we talk about knowledge about the government schemes, what government is doing, in what way, like there's a IEC policy, information, education, and communication. So government is doing a lot, and they are informing also, like what they are doing. But the problem is there's no right connect. So how this information should also go to the MSMEs, that what government are informing, and in what way they can directly connect with the government. Such technology driven portals are available, and this like some information I would like to give to my presentation. So then I will talk about like e-governance interventions, what are done recently. And like for quite a long time, like many interventions are there, but now government is focusing a lot on MSMEs after COVID-19. So one such intervention is okay. So first, like I would like to inform like what is e-governance. Basically, like some of the participants might see e-governance. Everybody knows that it is through whatever applications are there, web applications. Or but why e-governance and what is e-governance? So basically, these are not translation of processes. This is the transformation, the way government is, working. It is a complete transformation of government, provide efficient, convenient, transparent, effective, and sustainable services to the citizens and the businesses. So through ICT platforms. So it is not that whatever we are doing, so we just need to translate and put it forward through some, application, provide services. A lot of thought processes are involved, lot of transformation of processes are involved, change in the rules, codes, acts are involved in order to deliver these services. Then these are the four typical process pillars of the e-governance, basically people, processes, technology, resources. Everything is not computer. So a lot of people involvement are there, and we need to enhance the capabilities of people to deliver e-governance services. Processes, we need to make a lot of changes in the processes. Then technology part comes, technology, because things are all technology driven. Then resources are nothing but the funds. So when these four pillars are there, then only we are able to deliver the e-governance services in a much proper way. So my organization has not done, but I just wanted to showcase that a lot of work has been done by Ministry of MSME with regard to e-governance, and technology-driven platforms are available on the Ministry of MSME. This website, address one can note down or Google it out. So a lot of help is there. For example, through this Udyog Aadhaar, this you can register to Udyog Aadhaar and you will get the registration number. You can access to credit through this portal. So when you will click to it, you will get into a different portal from here. And then public grievances you can lodge through this. And my SMEs, you will be surprised to know so many services are given through this my SMEs. And for these are different this is a kind of platform where you are exposed to so many whatever you need get a good to become a good SMEs. All such information, communication, and policy related initiatives are informed by the government. Now coming to this is the MSME dashboard. This is also very important. Through this dashboard you will come to know what is happening in the country. So 100 days program, how they are doing about it, how many number of projects are there in PMEGP. So all such information, and these are all having drill down reports. You can get to know all such information. This is Udyog Aadhaar, what I was talking about, that easily you can register by using that site. So these are all the technology interventions by the Ministry of MSME. This is my MSME. This is one link where you can click here to apply so many services you can apply through here. For example, if you want credit guarantee, you can apply. Prime Minister Employment Generation Program, you can apply from here. Then MSME schemes, you can download. Like 22, I'm talking about this. So you can get to know the updated and the latest schemes of the government. So this is a very important aspect of the portal. And then, recently on 1st June, Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated this champions. So in this, this is basically for making the smaller unit, like micro to medium, micro to small, then small to medium, then to champion. So this portal is there to handhold you, to help you how to achieve the whatever targets you have. So you can register your grievance, you can make suggestion, you can seek guidance, your ideas, you can view the status of your grievance also. And this is so lot of information is available. It is all interactive. So it is not one way. So this is a portal, this is interactive, a lot of workflows are also involved. Then this is Prime Minister Employment Generation program. So directly, one can get registered through this because government is providing a lot of, skill development programs through this portal. I just wanted to inform you that there's so much, right? So I don't want to concentrate much my time on it because I have whatever projects we have done in the Telangana state, I wanted to concentrate on it. But this is just for the information, education and communication that these are all schemes available and one should browse. One should know how to get a part of these programs which governments are offering. One second. So this is one of the case study with regard to ease of doing business, because as we have one of the major challenge was how to establish and operate the enterprises in any of the states, right? So we were involved with at least 10 state government department in working on their EODB related eGov platforms. So in 2014, as you are all aware, that ease of doing business is a much hyped and much talked about subject in the globe as well as in India. I'm going to focus on Telangana. Telangana had come out with TSI Pass Act in 2014, and for speedy processing of the applications for setting up of industries, right? So 25 departments are involved. For example, like boilers is there, fire, labor, factories, energy, pollution control board, so GHMC, so what not, whatever departments are required for establishing, for giving clearance, for setting up of industry, they are all involved. In TSI Pass portal, all these 25 departments are connected in the backend. So what entrepreneur has to do? So they have to just talk to a single window, that is TSI Pass. This was developed by our organization. So till date, through TSI Pass, 12,427 industries have obtained permission with an extent of these many crores. 20 lakhs 4,000 crores of investment and employment creation of 14 lakhs in the state. So the reform areas you are able to see labor regulation, the environment, then utility permit, paying taxes, and basically it is providing information and transparency. So whatever it is happening in the government. So everything most of the information we are keeping on the public portal so that there should not be any information asymmetry. So now, what are the projects we are doing? As I've already informed, we are working with 15 major regulatory department projects, fire, labor, factories, boilers, PCB, GHMC, legal metrology, and out of total whatever process reforms are there in EODB, so we are taking care of 1/3 of all processes. And these are the transformation enablers, those who are planning to apply for any business in the state, for them it is going to be very useful. Otherwise, for others also, because it's a cycle. So even though if they have gone for the business, but time to time they have to deal with the government, so they should know about it. So there's a single common application form for all the state level approvals. And earlier, 100 plus documents they were supposed to be, submitted. Now only 9 documents are required. Now all the payments are to be done through online payment gateways, and there are other options also. Earlier, like no one is required to do multiple visits to the department. Now 0 visits, and the solutions which are developed for EODP, they are all end-to-end, and approvals are given online with digital signatures. So there are no delay in the processing of approval. For mega projects, there's a committee with the government. They have to give permission within 15 days. For other projects, they have kept a timeline for 30 days. So now, earlier it was very difficult to trace the status, and government officials were also not taking accountability. So now, one can track the application by putting application number onto the portal, and there's online grievance redressal system, and toll-free numbers are there to interact and track status. So now, see, one major, because I'm also working with government for past 25 years, we have seen the kind of objections government people are putting. So in this, they have put restrictions on raising the objection. So now once and for all, government can raise objections on the applications, and that too also within 3 days. After, for similar thing, they cannot raise another kind of objection. This is also one of the very a kind of shield is given to the entrepreneurs. And it is earlier several departments used to do inspections. Now self-inspection is also allowed, third-party inspections, joint inspections are allowed through various acts. So as to minimize the time for giving any permit or license. So, earlier, when there were delays, there were no actions. Now penalties are imposed on the government officials if they are delaying. So, and there's also a provision for deemed approval in case there's a delay. So they are giving deemed approval so that they can commence the business, and later on, then with the inspection, they can further streamline the approvals. So second is various timelines are communicated. And if I'm talking about Telangana only, if you can go through the website, you'll come to know how many timelines are given for different approvals for the establishment of enterprise. And this is the case with other state governments also, because this is a national project, ease of doing business. So whatever permissions are given, days are going to be different, but a lot of transparencies is ensured, so that enterprises must know, or entrepreneurs must know what is going on, what are the time limits, so that they can approach in case they are not getting the speedy resolution. So these are earlier I had shown you the establishment, if they have to establish any enterprise in the state. The second one is timelines for operation, when they have to start operation, and also some timelines are given. And this is self-certification system, which I was talking about, that they have to declare on 100 rupees bond paper that whatever they are saying, that is true. Based on the self-certification system, they can establish the enterprise. And once they are going to operate the same, then no government official will go for the inspections. This is a kind of TSI pass approval certificate, which is coming from the system itself. And this is with regard to the dashboard in Telangana. So, if you just see, this is a very latest update. So, for micro, small, and medium enterprises, these many manufacturing enterprises have got licenses or permits for the establishment and operation of their enterprises from TSI pass. So total investment also is mentioned, And for the service enterprises also numbers are given. So there's a if you just compare from 2014-15 to till date, because we have come out with this system in 2015-16. There's a huge numbers which are coming up, and there's a lot of enhancement in the registration, as well as in the total investment. There's a huge increase if we just see. So one case study, out of all 15 departments we are working, so in labor department, because labor has 78 process reforms out of 374 reforms. This is a very huge department, and they have a lot of compliances. After the e-governance platform we have developed, we have also given mobile application. So these are the few things I wanted you to know. Applicant now apply for services through online portal, pay prescribed fee online, know the application status, and download digitally signed license certificate online. They are not required to come to office or talk to anybody, because everything is available on the portal itself. And there's a random allocation of inspection of establishment to the department officials. The applicant can download inspection report online. Even officials are not knowing, because system is generating the inspections allocation randomly. Even officials are not knowing where they have to go. And there's also a provision for joint inspection with the factories department also. So, and citizen can apply for services from more than one source. So there are so many sources. It is not you have to only go for TSI Pass portal. You can directly go through Labor Department portal, or those who are not in a position to apply for that can go to Mi Seva centers, which are there in Telangana. So department official can either approve, reject, or park the application. Since all the business rules we have inbuilt in the logic itself, and it is a very comprehensive workflow, and from one level to another, from applicant to officer level 1, officer level 2, then officer level 3, then commissioner who is approving. So everything is automated, and it is in a work process. And then there's also a facility to provide the status of the application through mobile. So mobile app can be downloaded, and they can get to know about the status of the application. And one more thing I wanted to tell, that at every level, if application is moving from one officer to another, so SMS alert will come. And for the senior management, senior government officials, there's a decision support system in the form of dashboard and MIS, so that commissioner can see at a glance what are the applications which are pending across the state of Telangana, and he can drill down to that particular application, that which application is pending and why. He has all the powers to see what objections are raised, why it is pending. So that way a lot of penal actions are taking place by the higher ups. So this is just I wanted to showcase that what are the labor department enablers, that they have done a lot of process reforms here. So they have mandated online filing of single integrated return and applicable payments under all labor laws, and they have eliminated the requirement of inspection prior to registration, which was there earlier. Registration is granted within 1 day from the date of application. And then, I've already informed you that there's online application submission, then payment, then tracking, monitoring. And one thing, which is EODB guidelines of World Bank and Department of Industry Promotion and Planning, that there should not be any physical touch points. So whatever, IT platforms we are designing, so we are ensuring that, the entrepreneur is not required to go to any of the department or any of the offices. So if they are going to come, so these departments are losing marks actually. So so there's whatever document submissions, verifications are there, everything is through online. So they are getting if anything is pending, or if some there's a kind of gap. So officials are online, and it is recorded also. They are communicating with the entrepreneurs through the application itself. So system allows user to download the final signed approval certificate. So they don't need to come to office. And it allows third party to easily verify the approval of certificate. So for example, if you have to showcase to some third party that you have got approval certificate, so you can just give them your through public portal, they can just go and see whether you have got approval or not. And timelines are mandated through Public Service Delivery Guarantee Act. Already I have informed you regarding the establishment or operation. Those timelines are given. Okay. So this is just little statistics that, this total number of applications we have received through our system, 6,34,215 till date, out of which we have received issued licenses for 5,27,030. And just one thing, because EODB is doing assessment also of EODB. So Telangana state had ranked number 1 in 2016. In 17-18 also, Telangana had completed 100% business reforms. But due to this feedback system, they have got some 0.023 marks difference with the government of AP. So they got rank 2. Otherwise, as far as all business reforms are concerned, all IT platforms, the e-governance services, IT platforms, so they were rated 100%. And for this, for this 2019, still assessment is going on, and it has not, result is not come out. Achha, this is one of the case study currently. This is my project which we are working on. So this is basically for the street vendor and not for MSME. But I would like to tell you that in what way, this government is providing benefits, especially micro credit facility for street vendors. So what has happened? Prime Minister on 1st June, they had announced Prime Minister Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, PM Swanidhi project. So in this, the policy is, or the plan is, that whatever street vendors are available in the state, particular state, so they have to share the database to Government of India, and through this portal, this portal, so this portal, they can transfer the benefits, that is 10,000, to the particular street vendor account. I'll just tell you how it is going to happen. This is the mobile application which we have developed for state of Telangana. We are this municipal and administration department is capturing all the details through this mobile application which we have developed. There are around 23, 24 very basic details about the street vendor, and we are also capturing the photographs of the vendor plus their family, plus vending, whatever vending they are doing, activity, that we are capturing through mobile application. And the account details are also there, and Aadhaar number. So we are also authenticating the street vendor initially through Aadhaar number. And only we are allowing the street vendors details to get entered, so that there should not be any duplication. So once this exercise is going on, they have already they have already done survey of 1 lakh plus street vendor, and they are going to upload all this information with the Government of India portal. Government of India portal will pick up this bank account numbers of these street vendors. After authenticating, they will transfer directly based on the option given by the street vendor regarding the bank details. They will transfer the 10,000 amount into their account. So this work is going on, and very little bandwidth was given to us in which we have developed this. But what the bigger idea is that how e-governance is actually enabling. It is an enabler for similar case study we can take for some MSME micro credit scheme also. That is why I wanted to show this. This is not directly related to MSME, but this is the way that we are collecting the information how to speed up, because in this COVID-19 situation, street vendors have suffered like anything. So government has come out with e-gov platforms to enable them, to empower them, to give them microcredit so that they can again start the business, and they can get established. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
No?
Yes.
Now we invite Dr. Gurpreet Singh Gill, faculty member, School of Enterprise Development. Dr. Gill has more than 23 years of industry and research experience. He is alumni of JNU, IIRS, and IIT Delhi. He has worked with various organizations, mainly NIMSME, Head Remote Sensing and GIS in Readings Consulting Engineers India Limited, Head Research in Geospatial World, Technical Instructor at Rolta Research Consulting, Stats, etc. He has executed various projects in geospatial information technology, social sector. He has done capacity building and also completed various consultancy projects with government sector and private sector. You may please proceed with your session. Uh, just below your main presentation, these three dots. Yes, sir. Just below your presentation, these three dots are on the left side. On the left side, sir. Gurpreet, sir. Gurpreet, sir.
हाँ जी मैम.
Yes, sir. Sir, when you click on slideshow, just below the bigger slide, there are three dots. Just
Okay,
click on
I'll
slideshow one.
just a second.
Yes, sir.
Can you see my video now?
Yes, sir.
Now it is okay.
Yes, sir. Kindly share your PPT also, sir. Share your screen.
Sharing.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Now it is okay.
Yes, sir. Just click on slideshow.
Right. Review slideshow. Now it is okay, ma'am. Can you see me?
No, sir. The slideshow hasn't started yet.
Slide is not being shared.
No, sir.
Now.
Just click on slideshow one, sir.
Yeah. Not happening.
You can start your presentation.
Slideshow क्यों नहीं आ रहा? Slideshow क्यों नहीं हो रहा देखा? Webex नहीं.
Dr. Gill, can I tell you? Hello, Dr. Gill, can I add something? This is Deepak Uppal.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. See, yeah, I think you got it now. Got it? The slide show screen is separate. Your this screen, so you have to share the slideshow screen. I think you got it now.
Yeah, sir, it is coming in a big screen, but why it is not coming, I don't know.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, sir. Huh? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay in connecting. Actually, I was the first speaker because Arpita madam was busy, so I said I'll begin my introduction of e-governance a little late because there are many people, those who are well versed with e-governance and all, but majority of there are also students who are very new to the e-governance. So I thought like I'll just take everyone along with the journey of the e-governance. What does e-governance is all about? So e-governance is smart, moral, accountable, responsive, and transparent. And this e-governance started in late 1919 in the USA, where they wanted to eliminate the paperwork. Although in India we are progressing, but it's a long way to go. I will not discuss about the 4 pillars of e-governance in this slide because already Arpita madam have discussed. But in detail, I just wanted to discuss the process. E-governance, any process, not only e-governance, any process, it has to be simple for everyone to understand. It should be efficient. It should be citizen-centric. It should be sustainable because we don't want to process anything which is loss-making. So it has to be sustainable and it has to be a cost-effectiveness. As far as the technology is concerned, we are one of the best IT nation in the world, and we hope like with so many various schemes coming up in digital vision of digital India, we will have a great architecture. And basically this is the time when the majority of the companies or the governments across the world are working as an aggregator. Everyone knows like Oyo rooms, they don't own the hotel, but they are one of the biggest in India. We know Uber don't own any their taxis, but they are aggregators. So in e-governance, we believe we should deploy open standards, and they should be reliable because once 2-3 years back there were a lot of news in newspaper like Aadhaar and security, everything was leaked. So there's a lot of questions. The technology is great, but there's a question mark on the security, on the reliability, on these services. So there are a lot of distractor to these services. I'll come as benefit of e-governance. They are basically cost effective. They have to be very efficient. There has to be a minimum use of paperwork, so they are very good for environment also. It increases interest of citizen. Like everyone know, like in the lockdown, everyone was asked to download the Arogya Setu, and in Arogya Setu we were having that e-pass. So the mobile has given access to the services to everyone. Now we are, I think, the third biggest mobile users in the world, and it is a great like e-governance and governance. What Arpita madam was just telling, like for the vendors, the street vendors, and for the hawkers, if these services we can give the access to the common man, that is the main aim of this e-governance. So e-governance is also having a easy, accessible. It reduces the corruption and the red tape. We all know one of the two biggest e-governance services, like our driving license, the passport services. They are already completely online. Now recently, the ration card was announced across the India because there will be there were people those who are misusing all these ration cards and driving license. It will reduces the corruption. It reduces the crime rate also. So I will come up with a ranking first with the world, and then will for the India. as far as the e-governance readiness is concerned. The e-governance usually in the world is ranked by United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. They do once in a 2 years. So India was ranked 96 among 193 countries in 2018. India's progress in 2014 was India's position was 118, and in 2016 it was 107. And we hope like we in 2020 we'll be somewhere in 80s and maybe in 70s, but we are progressing. And in India and or in world now everything has to be ranked. So there a couple of years back the service started in India and it is called National E-Governance Service Delivery Index. And the latest report, which was released in December 2019, the survey is based on the 7 parameters. So they have access the ministries, the states, and I will come up with in the later slides on that. So what are the parameters on which these states and ministries were assessed? This is number one: accessibility, content availability, ease of use, information security and privacy, and service delivery, integrated service delivery, status and request tracking, because that is very important. If you're giving a service, you should know what is the status of your inquiry. So these are the number one ranked Ministry of Health and Family Welfare was number one, and gradually Ministry of Human Resources was second, Ministry of Agriculture third, and so forth, so on. And now I'll come to the ranking of the states. So basically all the states were divided into 3 categories. Like Himalayan, there are almost 11 states, 7 northeast states, then Sikkim, and then Himachal and Uttarakhand. So out of these ranking, Kerala is number one. And you'll be surprised to know Telangana, which is not very old state, but they are coming up very well with e-governance initiative. Arpita Madam from Center of Good Governance already told, and there are almost 250 different projects going on in Telangana. And Kerala, we know already one of the highest literacy rates from the 80s, and Kerala and Goa doing great. Another surprise is West Bengal. We as far as the governance, no, we are that is basic assumption is they are not doing well, but governance they are very good. And another backward known state, Chhattisgarh, is also in top 6. So I'll just give you that map is also it is showing the same. And among although here it is written 9 hills, because this I have just taken from the internet, but actually there are 11 as far as the NESTA assessment was there. So Himachal is number 1, and among the union territories, Andaman and Nicobar is ahead of Delhi, which we think is the capital of India, which should have a more e-governance preparedness, but they are lagging behind. So there are a lot of schemes.
I'm sorry to disturb you in between, but
yes,
I think the slides are not changing, sir.
I don't know. Anil was here. Only slides are not changing.
Yes, sir. We are still. It's still showing how it was introduced to the world slide.
Now?
Now it stopped sharing, sir.
Okay. Just a second. Now?
Yes, sir. You can keep this screen only, sir.
Now it is changing?
Yes, sir.
Now it is changing, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So this is a map which is showing a different ranking of the states. Among the union territories, Andaman and Nicobar Island is one which I've already mentioned, but I'm just coming back to the slide. As I told, they were not changing because here it is changing. So sorry for the disruption. There are major e-governance initiative in India, we have to have a very robust digital infrastructure for Digital India Vision. I'm not taking too many details, but a few 4 or 5 things which are not very common. People are not aware, so I'm just taking them. BharatNet. BharatNet was established in 2017, and to facilitate the delivery of the e-governance, e-health, e-education, e-banking. Let me share early. And there's a Meghraj. It is this is a cloud computing GI cloud, and there were around 80 services in 2015-16. From there, in 2018-19, it is having around 800 plus services. Then there's a online electronic signature called eSign, which was launched in 2015. DigiLocker, you already know, okay, like there's a safe way of securing your important documents like driving license, passport, your PAN card, and other. Because still there are a lot of apprehension. No, people don't want to share that, but there are few people who are very tech savvy. They are already using this thing. Then there's a rapid assessment system to know how the services are going. Now I come to Digital India Services. After this lockdown, I am also using, many of you are also using the UPI Pay. This is called Bharat Interface of Money. This is a mobile app which is available in 13 Indian languages and which is having more than 625 crore downloads. These are all Digital India services which I am discussing for. These are very common also, so I just wanted to take them. Then another thing which is not many know, there's the e-hospital. We already know there's the e-office, the e-office and all those things, but very few know the e-hospitals were initiated long time back, and after this post-COVID, at present they're only having a government hospital info, and I'm sure all the private hospital also wanted to be there on this platform. Then there's a e-NAM agriculture. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in the next slide. So India is predominantly an agriculture-based economy, and it is very large population is involved in these things, and many people don't know that this is a initiative of big e-governance, and a lot of farmers and the sellers are on this platform. Then there's a SWAYAM by Ministry of HRD, which they are already ranked number 2, and where people, those who are not able to take the education, and they were not part of that mainstream, they can go on SWAYAM, can take education from class 9 to the post graduation level. So that is also very good initiative. Then there's a national scholarship portal. So there are this has almost 60 schemes from 18 ministries. This is information till April 2019, so maybe there are more schemes are also on this national scholarship portal. So these are all very important e-governance initiative for the general public. Then I'll move to the e-NAM. I was just telling. e-NAM is almost having 585 marks in 16 states and 2 union territories. Already 200 crore milestone it is reached, and this is e-NAM has a different modules for various stakeholders like traders, like farmers. That is a great thing for people. After the madam I told about the state vendors, there are other speakers like Common Service Center, Mr. Raja here will be telling about the rural and e-governance and rural interventions, rural areas, and there are major implementation. I talked about ration card, driving license, birth certificate, death certificates, and railway tickets. These are all services which are we doing already on e-governance. Now I'll talk a little bit of e-governance as far as one ministry called our ministry MSME. They have initiative. They have already initiative e-office in their ministry, and they have also had a quality standard ISO 9001 2005 was adopted by ministry. They are also having Aadhaar-based biometric attendance from 2014, and they have already covered 98% of their. Then there's a out of 658 districts and 644 DACI, very few are having online system, which is workflow-based system of filing. This will allow MSME to make it easier to do business. The e-governance, and earlier there was a different website which was launched by cluster mapping. Where cluster is a very aspirational, what you say, scheme launched by Gadkari. Under the Spurti also, Spurti means scheme of fund for regeneration of traditional industry, because India has a very large number of traditional people, those are working in traditional industry like J&K, Telangana, and Gujarat, and Rajasthan. So to make, because cluster are very, what do you say, major focus areas of various states. So to have them aggregator, the ministry has started dcmsme.gov.in website, and now we cannot submit any proposal offline. Like we cannot submit the hard paper. We have to log on the website, and only then their proposal will be accepted. So this is again a very good initiative by the ministry. Way back in 2014, another thing was launched by MSME Naukri by NISBIRD. This is NISBIRD has now moved into the Ministry of Skill Development, but I'm just sharing what they've launched. Business to B2C web portal of NIC was launched on 31st July 2015. This will market the product exclusively for MSME, and I'll come again another new initiative which was launched in 12th May of 2020, champions.gov.in. The main aim of the ministry was to launch this champions.gov.in because we have a lot of potential, but we don't have any one company which has become as a global, like for example Google or Microsoft. So maybe in a due course, with a government initiative and the vast network of India, we will definitely have a champions. So that is the main aim behind this champions, and it will also redress any problems what MSME facing very soon, because at first government guidelines they're going to do it within 14 days. So I'll come. What are the limitation of e-governance at present? India is a developing country, so we don't have too much of a budget for e-governance, but we are doing a lot, and many states are progressing very well. We have another problem is we have a poor IT literacy, where many people don't know how to log in, how to file the papers, how to get the finance from the bank. Another issue is lack of electricity in the rural areas, because India is a very big country, and electricity has not reached to many far-flung areas, especially hilly areas. And then there is a lot of corruption. There is also a privacy problem, where just I said, like there was a newspaper of the breach of Aadhaar database, where people are very apprehensive. And these are the various challenges of e-governance. Like there's a lack of integrated services. For example, there was a program of modernization of land records, and a big challenge for the government, because different states have different land records in different languages, different formats. So putting everything on one platform is not very easy. In a large country like India, there's a large population. There's a lack of interface between different departments. That's another challenge, and we are having a pan-India e-governance initiative. But that is very important for us also, because now we are having all our passport with the biometric data. So that's how I've written a walk with the world, because almost all the developed world have that data. So we will also have that data, and it's become easy to monitor. From April 2019, the IT ministry have already having a big data monitoring of people who are having any transaction to bank or everything. It is being monitored through the big data. So in the end, I just want to talk about, just want to tell, like, it is very important to create awareness about positive rule of e-governance and the economic benefit and social benefit of e-governance. So e-governance makes an impact on the knowledge of the society, the more e-governance services will have, the more knowledgeable the society will be, and definitely it will have a lot of benefit and reduce corruption, and it will be a great thing for India. And we hope like in another 5 years or 10 years, we are among top 30 countries of e-governance initiative in the world. Thank you very much. Hello, ma'am.
Now, we invite Mr. J. Rajakishore, Assistant Vice President, CSC E-Governance Services India Limited. Mr. Kishore has 22 years of rich. Oh, I'm sorry. Uh, First, we invite retired Commander Deepak Uppal, Director Government and Public Sector Consultancy, PwC PricewaterhouseCoopers. Mr. Uppal has more than 36 years of experience. He served in Indian Navy for more than 23 years and retired as commander. He has done PMBOK in project management. He holds Six Sigma in Green Belt and Quality Management and holds PG certificate from Management Development Institute MDI Gurgaon. He has executed various national and international projects of repute. He is well known for his project execution acumen. Sir, you may please proceed with the session. And I'm really sorry for the mistake. Thank you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. For a moment, by Murphy's Law, just before I was going to start, my Wi-Fi went on a little blink. That happens in technology. Just when you need a thing the most, it gives you a little jitter. So, and we have got to manage that and go ahead with it. I've got a little presentation that I will start putting it on. And okay, so the presentation is on. Is it visible to everybody?
Yes, sir. It is.
Sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. So myself and Dr. Gill. Say again. Yeah, shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Myself and Dr. Gill, we were discussing the other day as to what to present to this audience, because a lot of things have been already shared by my co-panelists earlier about e-governance, about other facilities available by the Government of India and all. And we finally zero down to that for an MSME, the most important input is skilled workforce. And what are the e-governance initiative around the availability of skilled workforce, around making the skilled workforce certified, reliable skilled workforce available to our MSME? And could we discuss that around that? So this is around this is the topic around which I am going to share my some views with you for next 20 minutes or so. Let's first take it a little. Let's take a little bird's eye view of workforce typology. This might be repetition for some of you, but it is good to put things in order when we start on some work. So first of all, we have traditional skilled workforce, that is like artisans. Now these are like potters and painters and the kind of people who are traditionally skilled, and they are not really industrial worker. Then we come to the industrial worker level. We've got blue collar workforce, which is the skilled industrial work power workforce. Then we've got brown collar workforce, the kind that are produced by our polytechnics. These are supervisory level workers. And we've got white collar workforce. This includes from managers up to right up to CEOs and all. These are executive level workforce. And just to put you through, the white collar workforce are produced by our universities and by our IITs and by our MBAs, MBA colleges, business colleges and all. Brown collar, as I mentioned, are produced by our polytechnics. A traditional skill workforce also has got some colleges like Gandharv and all that, but it is not a very well organized and very well area. blue-collar workforce, and this is a topic around which we would be discussing today. And this is produced by a set of schemes and institutions that have been, kind of being developed in the country for usually for last 50 or 60 years. And today they have reached a scale where they are capable of supplying trained, skilled industrial, manpower to all our MSMEs. Let's first have a look at the schemes. I just take a little bit of time to have a look at our schemes and then go ahead and see what are the e-governance initiatives about this. The most important scheme that is going around is the CTS, Craftsman Training Scheme. Now, this is the scheme that runs 1 year to 2 year long courses on almost 138 trades. Now, when I say trade, an electrician is a trade, a plumber is a trade, a turner in a factory is a trade. So there are about 138 trades identified, and the courses differ from 1 year to 2 year. It just recently, this year only, one more course has been put in, which is 6 months in length, which is also being formalized. But otherwise, there are minimum 1 year to 2 year courses. Now, these courses are run by our ITIs. We have a network of 15,000 ITIs. About 2,700 of them are from the government owned, and balance about 12,000 all are privately owned ITIs. Each ITI has got some 5, 6, 10, some of the larger ones have got 15 trades in which they impart training. Together, they train around 22.8 lakh trainees. Now, this is a very, very large figure. If you see any other, there is no other scheme in this country, there is no other which trains a workforce of this size. Okay, so this is the scheme overall. These students, they complete their training and then they they appear in their CTS examinations, which consists of written as well as practical examinations. There is also a continuous evaluation happening, and once successful completion of the examination, the semester, the period, they get a certified CTS certificate, Craftsman Training Scheme certificate, which is just like you have 12th, you have CBSE certificate. CTS certificate is for that. It is given by Director General of Training from the Ministry of Skill Development. And the whole thing is managed by them, as we will see a little later. Certified, quality controlled, and managed by them. Another major scheme that is running is an apprenticeship training scheme. Now, this is a scheme that takes junior guys and it trains them through practical experience in an actual industry. So there are industries that can register in the scheme as a training establishment, and thereafter they can take on apprentices. There are rules, there are compliances by which they are supposed to take on these apprentices, and these apprentices are given a certain stipend, and even the industry get a little bit of financial incentives for helping train the apprentices. And after on completion of the apprentice training, they just appear into a modified CTS kind of examination, and they again become certified manpower. Thereafter they can either be absorbed in the same industry where they've done their apprenticeship training, or they can go out. So this is the very important scheme, which is also bringing out a lot of students every year into the market. You go a little ahead. This is how the people are tested. Their exam is called AITT, All India Trade Test. Just like ATS was the examination name for this. And there is another examination called National Council for Vocational Training. Now, these examinations happen twice a year. National Apprentice Certificate is awarded once they qualify the examination, and thereafter they are eligible to take employment under any government, semi-government department, organization, or in an industry. One thing to tell over here is that all of you who have an experience or who know about open schooling system, so these follow that principle in terms of number of years or time taken. Now, a student, when he enrolls, he is supposed to do minimum 2 years. Let's say that that skill is for 2 years. He's supposed to do minimum 2 years of to complete the ATS certification. But he may take more than that. So he is supposed to complete it within 5 years. He may take more than that. So he can come back and he can take a break, come back, or if he fails something and repeat it. And there is a particular amount of time after which his candidature lapses. If he is not able to clear that in that amount of time, then he is out of system as non-certifiable. So this is something that goes into this system, and these two schemes together produce the certified industrial blue-collar workforce in the company in the country. There are other schemes which are adding to it. So these are rather a mixed, and these are varieties of the main CTS and apprenticeship training scheme only. So there is a Flexi MOU scheme. There is a dual system of training. See, ATS, the prime training agency is the ITI. And in apprenticeship training scheme, the prime training agency is the industry or the establishment that is taken on the apprentice. Now, there can be a case where you mix them up together. The student belongs to ITI, but he goes for a short-term 6-month apprenticeship training onto a industry. Similarly, the student could be belonging to an industry as an apprentice, but goes for some classroom studies to an ITI. This way, when you mix it, these are the variations of it: Flexi MOU scheme and dual system of training. Similarly, the advanced vocational training scheme and advanced vocational diploma, which are giving training for certain set of trades and skills. How does that interest the MSME? First is availability of trained certified manpower. When you hire somebody, when the MSMEs hire somebody, they want to be having a certain degree of assurance of his competence, a certain degree of assurance of his having learned something. So this is something that this certificate is something that you get, just like a 10th certificate or a 12th certificate gives a person an assurance that the person who's applying can read, write, and do arithmetic and has got some basic civic knowledge. Similarly, these also give a certain assurance of that man having applied certain skill. The apprentices have already worked in an industrial environment, in an establishment. They have acquired a little bit of experience, and that experience they bring on board along with the training certificate. So that is something very good. Also, MSMEs can participate in the apprenticeship program as a establishment taking on apprentices on there. Now, there are a lot of benefits in taking on apprentices. These apprentices get a certain amount of stipend from the government. So the productivity comes at a very low cost to the company. The government also grants certain amount of incentive. So there is a little benefit that goes around taking these apprentices for participating in the apprentice program. So MSMEs can register as an establishment and take on apprentices on this. This is how you can participate in this scheme. Now coming to the crux of the matter, the eGov stations. So this entire scheme has been wrapped inside an eGov kind of a package with various government portals that are giving information or running the scheme. First is NCVT MIS portal. This is the most important portal. NCVT MIS portal has everything that is related to the 22.8 lakhs students that are coming out of IITIs. Now, they're right from their admissions, they're conducting their examinations, issuing hall tickets, to recording their marks, and then processing their results, declaring results, and giving certificates. All this is happening at NCVT MIS portal. So this is a portal that manages the entire CTS scheme and the other sister smaller schemes. Then there is an apprenticeship portal. I've given the website address also over there. This portal this portal handles everything about apprenticeship. For those MSMEs who are interested in registering as establishments that take on apprentices to train, this may be the right place to go, and you can register yourself, and the whole thing goes there on. There is also an information portal called bharatskill.gov.in. Bharatskills.gov.in has got a lot of knowledge, a lot of training, a lot of e-learning, a lot of other information about government rules, about government subsidy, about e-governance, about the entire e-governance structure around this availability of manpower, about employment, about incentive schemes. All that is there. And then there is National Career Service portal that does what the name says. It brings the employer and the employee together, tries to bring the employer and the employee together, and it kind of serves as an employment exchange for this kind of sector. Then, if you want to register an apprenticeship scheme, this is the website address that is given over there. You can go over there, you can register yourself, you can give your details, and you can post your vacancies over there. How many apprentices you would like to take, and your vacancies will be visible to the prospective applicants in the apprenticeship portal. You would be able to apply for it. You can discuss with them, thereafter issue them offer letters, and the whole happens online. So there's an entire e-governance structure built around it. You don't need to go anywhere, just sitting at your home, sitting in your offices, you can get a certain amount of apprentices on board onto your company, which will assist your activity. As well as one of the biggest advantage of apprenticeship scheme is that to the industry that employs him, it gives him a 1 year long observation period to see that this employee should be retained for long period or not, what an asset this employee can be. So this is something a big opportunity. All this while, the employee is getting paid stipend by the government of India, and the company is getting a certain incentive, and the whatever productivity the employee is putting up, that is an added bonus. So that is the beauty of the scheme. Coming up to looking at the future, what can we see in next 1 year? What new initiatives can we see? Now, these are very, very interesting time. There is a very, very interesting time ahead. Some very, very interesting initiatives that are in the pipeline that will slowly be unfolding over the next 365 days. The first thing is digitally signed PDF certificates. Now, ATS, the certificate of ATS, there have been a lot of complaint about forgery, and you don't know whether to check whether the guy actually went to an IIT or not, how to check, a lot of problems about it. Now, what is happening is that the government is going in for digitally signed, digitally verified PDF certificates. Now, these certificates are such, and I've seen the demonstration myself. I can tell you, even if one space or a comma is changed, the digital signature does not validate it. Okay, the department itself, the government itself, is setting up a validation and verification service. So let's say I approach some MSME for employment. I tell them that, okay, I am certified in so and so trade. I submit my certificate to that MSME. MSME can upload that certificate on the net, can scan, there will be a barcode on it, it can be scanned and it can be uploaded, and the system will tell you, the government will tell you whether this certificate is valid or not. Okay, so there is also a bulk verification service also in the plan. That means if you are, let's say, if you are employing 50 guys, so you don't have to do 50 operations. You can just upload them in bulk, and in one bulk, the answer yes or no would come. There is DigiLocker support also being, but in fact, this DigiLocker support is very, very near. Very soon you will see. So that means on your employee's mobile, his certificates, his authenticated certificates will be available, visible. He can show you his DigiLocker screen, and on this, the certificate which is on there would be an authentic certificate taken off from a government server. Okay, a machine readable digitally signed certificate. Now this is like you might have learned about the JSON file format. Now these certificates are also planned to be issued in machine readable format. So in that sense, there is a lot of manpower. When you want to do bulk recruitment, so what happens is you get 10 certificates, you have to manually enter data in your systems and all. Not required anymore. The machine readable format would come. You can straight away feed into your system, and your system will read it and populate your data, slots accordingly. Similarly, in a machine readable, certificates can be sent automatically. Your system can talk to the government system through API and tell whether this certificate is genuine or not. Confirm from the government and bring out whether the certificate is genuine or not. Effectively, if I see a year from today, one of you who is trying to evaluate one candidate for some important assignment, can get his machine readable JSON format certificate, can upload it into system sends an API to the government sends a reply back, and within about 30 seconds, by the time the guy has taken his chair and in front of you, get a red or a green flag on your system to say whether the certificate is genuine or it is not genuine. I think these are the things that will increase the credibility of the system to a great extent, and will bring the MSME and even larger industries to rely on to these certifications in selection of their manpower. Coming to that, there are two more initiatives which are in place. Campus placement solution. All these ITIs and all, they call the local industries, the local MSMEs to their campus when their courses are about to get over to do campus placement, to pick up guys from their campus. You have to go over there. Sometimes there are 5 ITIs calling you simultaneously and all that thing. All that will be kind of eased out with the new solution, that is the e-governance solution. In that, this campus placement or Rojgar Mela, you might have heard Rojgar Mela, you might have attended some Rojgar Melas also. So this Rojgar Mela will get transferred to a digital platform. So in that case, whatever manpower is being made available will come over there, whatever industries are interested in it will come over there at one place, and they will be placed together, and there will be interaction, and they will the industry will say, I like this candidate, the candidate will say, I like this industry, and wherever the twain meet, there will be a kind of further interaction of interview and other processes and all. Job offer letter issuance of all offer letter and all that thing happens then and there. So the campus placement solution will enable the MSMEs to participate in multiple campuses without moving out of their offices and obtain good quality certified manpower, reliable manpower, recruit them whenever there is a course about to come to an end in any of the ITIs in their area. Then there is a continued career enablement support. In this case, so basically campus placement and continued career enablement support, the difference is campus placement is fresh recruitment out of fresh graduates from an ITI. Continued career enablement support is lateral recruitment. So a person joins a company, he works for 2 years, 3 years, he wants a change now, he goes out. Again, his name will appear, then continued career enablement support. If I want, let's say if I want a person with 5 years experience, I want a supervisor maybe, I would probably look into the continued career enablement support web portal, not in campus replacement portal. If I want my fresh guy, bottom line rung worker, machine level worker, so probably I look at campus placement solution over there. So this is how these are the e-gov constructs that are being planned onto this sector, the availability of skilled and certified manpower to our industries, MSME included. For the next 365 days, in next 1 year, you guys can expect these initiatives to. Many of them are in a very advanced stage of development, so they will definitely see the light of day in all of them. In fact, almost all of them, I have seen the prototype. I have seen them work. I have seen them on a manual basis. It just has to be industrialized. It just has to be operationalized. So they are very, very near completion. This is what you can expect in the coming years. This is what I had to share. I will end now. In case if there are any questions, I would be available.
Yes, sir. Now we invite Mr. J. Assistant Vice President, ESC E-Governance Services, MSME. Mr. Kishore has 22 years of rich experience in project management, information technology, e-governance, entrepreneurship development, and innovation nurture. He is an aggressive promoter of CSC drives for the rural and urban e-governance initiatives, empowering the common man with digital technology, creating sustainable social enterprises, that is, CSCs run by dynamic VLEs. He is also heading PMG Disha implementation across two Telugu states and initiated three Swabhiman projects by setting up sanitary napkin units at villages through Women CSC VLEs, CSC academies, MSME initiatives, Delhi Law Services, and BharatNet project. Sir, you may please proceed with your session now.
Thank you, madam, for the introduction, and good afternoon, all. And I hope already Arpita, madam, and also Gil sir, and also Deepak ji has covered a lot of interesting topics. So, in fact, let me introduce myself. I am Raja Kishore. I'm from Common Service Center, that is CSE Governance. We are part of Ministry of IT. And in the initially, I would like to talk that as we are talking about e-governance and all that. So we are basically you can say the facilitators of services to the common man, especially a common man who is not connected with internet, who is not having any kind of IT tools for him to transact with the government and all. And we are, I can say that we are the enablers for a lot of IT services developed by the e-governance initiatives. And let me
Sir,
say
your
that.
screen is not visible.
Oh, just a second. Now?
Share content.
Yeah. Now is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So I would like to say that Digital India, we are working on infrastructure. We manage the O&M for the BharatNet, which has reached 1,50,000 villages in the country. And in terms of services, we deal with around 600 to 700 B2C, B2C, financial services, banking services, insurance, pension, payment services, bank, and also CSP points and all that. And at the same time, third point is that very important is that we empower citizens to reach government online. Because as Arpita madam was mentioning about development of various tools and various platforms for the people to access it. But at the end of the day, in India, you need to understand that our rural infrastructure and also the ability of a common man to reach government online, still there is a gap. Because today, if I look, because I'm also working in the space, I see every department is going online. Okay, but at the same time, and even an illiterate should be able to access government online. That is the gap today India is facing. So, in order to reduce that digital divide, okay, we also, Government of India, MIT has launched a program called Pradhan Mantri Digital Saksharata Abhiyan to make at least one person in a family as a digital literate, so that he will be able to reach government for information, service, or any other support or grievance directly through the internet. So, as you know, our government runs on Roti, Kapda, Makan, and now one more component is added is that internet. And all the schemes of the government, whether it is DBT and other things, are linked up with something called Jandan Aadhaar Mobile. So this is a JAM triology is a great boon for e-governance, because today, because of JAM, you could easily identify the duplicates or fake or some leakages in the system can be easily identified with the JAM triology. So the seeding part and all, because all the state governments, because earlier you may say that maybe southern states were more predominant in e-governance. But today I can say that even governments like Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand or even Bihar or even Gujarat, and all other North Indian states are also running behind e-governance to give better services to the citizen at ease. Okay, because all services should be reaching citizen easily, and citizens should also have an access points where they can actually avail these services. You developed a wonderful website, wonderful portal, End of the day, where will citizen access and who will teach him how to access? So it makes a lot of sense that empowering citizen at the other end is also equally important when you are spending on infrastructure, cloud, servers, network, designs, and various portals. So what CSC does is we have around 3,75,000 common service centers from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Tripura to Gujarat, serving various kinds of services, whether it is government to citizen services, passport apply karna hai, and whether it is a PAN card or it is IRCTC railway ticket, or even revenue services, G2C services of various state governments and all. And apart from that, there are a lot of other requirements people also have in rural areas, like B2C services. B2C is also very important. Financial inclusion, digital inclusion, and also we are focusing on the literacy aspect, because I told you one is the BharatNet is an infrastructure project for connecting villages. Second one is services, as every government has online services readily available. The third one is the empowerment of citizens, so that at least one person in a family is digitally literate. Today we have trained around 2.5 crore citizens across the country to make them digitally literate, to understand that what is a computer, what is an internet, what is a app, what is an Android, what is a smartphone, and all that. So this program also has been done. So today I'll be briefly talking about how MSME segment CSE can help. So let me go to this slide. So first thing I'll be talking about the education part, where we are saying that CSE Academy. So let me tell you the rural challenges what we face. So CSE also, lot of our village level entrepreneur out of 3.75 lakhs are doing banking services. So 1 year back, I remember somewhere in 2019 early, so there came a regulation that a person who is doing a customer service point service or banking services kiosk in a village should be certified with IIBFX. Okay, then we were also wondering if this guy can write the IIBFX. There's an online portal, as I told you. Even we have VLEs in Adilabad, Nirmal, and all. So the exam fees is around 800, and VLE has to pay the fees online, and he has to book a slot. Then he has to come all the way from Adilabad to Hyderabad, spending maybe around 1,000 rupees, because the normal bus charges are 380, 400, and he'll come here. He will also have to eat and all. Again, by writing the exam, he has to go back. So the cost of exam was around 1,000 rupees, and the travel cost and other thing is coming out around 1,000. And he has to wait. There was a lot of waiting period, because when we found the problem why people are not getting certified, so we realized that because there was a shortage of examination centers, especially these offline offbeat courses. So we thought that we should actually set up some CSE academies across the country to help the rural citizens, whether it is for their enhancing their skills or enhancing their knowledge. Because today I am confident that there is no education without getting the computer literacy. Because all the engineering streams or whatever you, even in graduation also, so computer literacy or computer education is become a part of it. Even if somebody is studying anthropology, end of the day he need to write his project report or some thesis or some content to be PPT is required, Word is required, and all that. So we decided that we will be setting up CSE Academy, and today we have around 4,000 CSE Academy running across the country. So the CSE Academy has a good infrastructure. I can say that minimum 10 computers with high-speed internet connectivity, and it also has the digital classroom infrastructure, because this kind of session also can happen at a CSE Academy. And when I was looking at the exploration of the areas where we can work with MSME or help MSME, so we thought that these kind of CSE academies, MSMEs can actually go and have a local tie-up with the CSE Academy depending upon their education need. And even continuation education is also a challenge for the employees of MSME, especially working in rural areas or remote areas. So today CSE Academy offers a lot of courses with Symbiosis Academy, and yesterday Delhi University has signed up an agreement with us. They said a lot of their students in Kashmir and Haryana are unable to write exams, so they would like to use the CSC Academy infrastructure and network for conducting these exams. So, like as I said, CAD CAM training and even 3D printing training. Recently, we have also started some courses in 3D printing and technologies. And even as MSME also has some kind of IT incentives for the MSMEs, so those kind of trainings, accounting tools, or even GST trainings, or even a small website designing kind of stuff can be taken care of by the CSA. Then banking facility. As I told you, we are a platform where we want to serve the citizen better. So we are a neutral platform. We promote all the banks. We promote SBI. We promote HDFC. We promote Bank of Baroda. All the banks, and we provide a lot of services, banking services. So recently, we have also started giving tractor loans to our farmers through the CSCs in the rural villages. Because earlier, disbursement of a loan take for a farmer at least 5 to 6 visits to the bank and also the dealer. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of follow-up, and a lot of restrictions and all. But today, all these 3.75 lakhs are able to do this thing with a simple filing of an online application, and the rest of the things is taken care of by the business process of the respective. It is SBI, HDFC, or ICICI, Axis, or Bank. So we can actually help MSMEs to, if they want a bank account for their employees, or even want zero Jan Dhan account for their employees, whether it is APY application, Atal Pension Yojana, or Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, or Jeevan Jyoti, it's a Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, which is like 12 rupees they get 2 lakh accidental insurance, and Jeevan Jyoti they get 330 rupees 2 lakhs accidental insurance. That means 340 rupees, if somebody pays 342, will get an insurance of 4 lakhs coverage every year. This is the auto debit from the bank. Pension related, we have NPS, we have APY also we do for the, so MSMEs can approach CSCs for any of these services related to banking. Then, as I said, the GST and all these things, we do have a lot of services related to tax filing, and we also a lot of our, because we are also now closely working with MSME, other registration also are coming to CSC and taking their help, especially the MSME units which are in a very far off areas, away from cities or some interior areas, and CSC can have a lot of synergy and can work with them. Then we also have, as I told you, all the Pradhan Mantri schemes, right? Recently, you know that during COVID, PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, a lot of money was given to beneficiaries through DBT. And the CSC is actually, in fact, our performance has doubled in the lockdown period, because there was a tremendous pressure on the system, even from the bank side or even from the government, that whatever 500 rupees is kept in the account is sent to the account, and it was difficult for a citizen to go to bank because there was no transport, and at the same time there is no clue that how money will reach the hands of the beneficiaries. So CSC played a critical role, because we were able to do this disbursement in every state, and even in red zones also. Some of the governments have requested us that we need to set up some camps to disburse these old age pensions, which are dire necessities for the needy. So we have done, and all MSME employees can actually take these services whichever applicable to them through the CSC net. And the other thing is that, as we are talking about digital, everything is digital. Even today CSC, we are focusing on 3 areas. One is the digital teacher, digital doctor, and also digital banker. Okay, so we call it as DBT, CSC DBT. So doctor, banker, and teacher. So today we have a lot of online course. We actually give English courses to the students in the rural areas. And we also have this DigiName initiative where MSME can actually they can go to any CSC and get their domain name, and also our VLA also help in developing the name in a very cost effective. I think it will not cost more than 130 rupees, the total website itself. And we also came out with something called Dhwani, because when we are dealing with a lot of population who are also illiterate, because in villages and all we call it as a digital Dandora. Okay, so we came out with a service called CSC Dhwani, where the information about various schemes are highlighted through this WhatsApp group or village WhatsApp group, also social media groups and other areas. And the other thing is that recently, because this is our latest initiative, which we have taken up, something called CSC Gramin e-store, because we know that our person really is a very competent person when it comes to dealing with the computer and technology and all other aspects related to that. So because all these e-commerce companies are focused on the urban areas, now they are going to tier 2 or tier 3 cities. So we have initiated something called CSC Gramin e-store, and we have set up 1 lakh e-stores in a just period of 2 months. We started this project on April 3rd, and by May 31st, we have actually able to set up around 1 lakh e-stores. And we have done nearly 2.7 lakh deliveries to the citizens in rural areas, especially the essentials and groceries, fruits, vegetables, and some handicrafts. And recently, now suddenly we got the Desage Human products, and even we would like to sell MSME products through our CSC Gramin network. And this way also we can have this MSME segment. So thank you. I think I was brief, and I was more focusing on how we CSC and MSME can work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now I request all the participants, if you have any questions for our speakers, put your questions in the chat box, and I will ask the questions to our speakers. In the meantime, I request the participant to kindly fill out the feedback form for the webinar. The link for the same is in the chat box itself. Meanwhile, if any of the speaker wants to add something to the webinar, they can go ahead. It seems that the webinar was informative enough that the participants don't have any questions for our speakers. So on that note, I would like to thank all the speakers for their valuable time and inputs. And I request Dr. Gill to propose a vote of thanks. So please.
Good evening to all the participants and the panelists. The session was started by Mrs. Arpita Khare from Center of Good Governance, and she talked about Udyog Aadhaar, PMEGP, ease of doing business and labor departments, and another few of the very interesting projects she shared, PM Street Vendor, Atmanirbhar Nidhi, and there was another one where they are also having all various factor on the same platform. So that is a good initiative. Commander Uppal, like they are creating a e-governance where the around 550,000 ITIs across the country will be put on the same platform. And in India, there's always have been shortage of the skilled manpower, and it will be great. Like within this year, we will have not only skilled power but the certified skilled power. Another things which he shared was the national career services, continued career enablement, and also various trades and all India tests like AITTT, where various apprenticeship apprenticeship can train themselves and can certify. Then in the end, Mr. Raja Kishore from the Common Service Center, they talked about they are having around 3 lakh service centers. So that is a great thing and great platform started by Ministry of IT, and it will have a definitely digital inclusion of a very large population which was divided of because of this IT infrastructure was not there in a country, so they were not on board. So it is a great initiative that they have already trained 5.38 crore people. And then he also talked about they are having around 4,000 CSC academy across India, where they are training people. And if during his presentation in NIMSME, he has talked about if anyone wants to open his common service center, they are also welcome to do that. And another thing he talked about was CSC Dhoni. This is another very good initiative where people, especially in rural areas, far-flung areas, the advertisement can reach to the audio. Another very interesting thing which I was not aware, like he shared about the Grameen e-store, where products can be sold online via simple mobile app. In fact, this Ministry of MSME, when they are promoting the clusters, there's a big challenge to market their products, because ministry can only help them to create an infrastructure where they can train them, skill them, provide the machinery. But when it's come to forward integration, which is called marketing, there's a lack of initiative. So it is another great initiative, and definitely I'll pass on the information to various MSMEs to make use of this Grameen e-store. And in the end, thanks to panelists to be a part of this webinar in spite of having their very pressing schedule. So special thanks to Arpita Madam, Commander Upal Sir, and J. Raja Kishore. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I would like to remind our participants that for any further queries, please email us at info@nimsme.org, and also visit our website www.nimsme.org for information regarding the upcoming webinars. Thank you all.